Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and we are going to be doing an NFL tier list. If you can't tell, I'm in the top left of your screen, top right. I don't know where I'm putting this webcam screen in, but I am going to be doing a tier list for the offseason. This is going to be part one. Part two is going to be actually in a couple months when we're going to be talking about the NFL draft, because the NFL draft is a huge component of the offseason. We're seeing guys like Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons make huge impacts on these teams in revamping completely different sides of the ball. But we have to take a look at the trades and the free agency moves that were made in the past couple weeks, because they have also made big-time changes throughout the entire NFL. If you've been sleeping under a rock, you got to catch up, because there's a lot of things that have been going on in the NFL, and a lot of teams have changed either for good or for worse. And we're going to go through these tier lists, and these are going to be 5 different tiers. Super Bowl contenders, we got playoff locks, we got borderline wild card, we got mid, and we got ugly teams. And I don't want this video to be long. You don't want this video to be long. I'm going to rapid fire through some of these teams. I'll go into in-depth with a couple of the teams that might be in positions you wouldn't expect. But I completely believe this tier list. I'm not doing this for clicks or views or anything. This is all my thoughts. I'm just a guy that's watching football, and this is how I analyze these teams and how I feel these teams should be ranked. And let's get straight into it. 49ers, playoff lock. I think the 49ers are a playoff lock team. I think that they aren't going to win the NFC West, which some people would be like, how do you think they're a playoff lock? Why wouldn't they be a borderline wild card? I think that they are set to potentially make another deep run with Trey Lance. I'm a Trey Lance guy personally. I think he's going to be able to fit really well into that offense and make plays unlike Jimmy Garoppolo with his legs. And that's going to be a key component of that offense. If they don't get rid of Deebo Samuel, they'll be dropped into mid. I will say that real quick. Like, teams like the Falcons, I'm not going to go into depth for. I'll watch a couple games from Marcus Mariota, but they're ugly. It's one of the worst teams in the NFL. Jets, mid. I'm going to say it. The Jets are not a terrible team right now. Now, they have all the potential to have a really, really good draft. Now, if they do not have a draft that I personally like, they'll be dropped back down to ugly. But they have all the potential in the world. They have made some really, really good signings, and I still believe in Robert Saleh. I don't want the New York media to paint this as he's a terrible head coach. He's a new head coach at the end of the day, and I still think he could still be a really good defensive coordinator even if he's let go. But I still think he has head coaching potential. Ravens, I think that they're a borderline wild card, potentially playoff lock. But I'm going to put it in a wild card just because the entire AFC North is so hard to rank, and you'll see it in this video. If they are healthy, they are a playoff lock, borderline Super Bowl contender. And I really like the moves that they made. I really hope they would make a move at corner potentially, because if you match up Marlon Humphrey with another elite corner, that secondary gets really, really tough to throw against. Lions are ugly. I'll watch them for Hard Knocks, but at the end of the day, this team is just so many holes in there. If they go with Travon Walker at number 2, it'd be a massive mistake. Bears, ugly. I like Justin Fields, but that's about it. Cowboys, mid. I would put the Cowboys in front of the Jets. Now, if you haven't seen any tier list videos, left over right, which basically means if a team's farther left, that means I think that they're better to the teams farther right. That's just how I do them. I think the Cowboys are maybe a wild card team at best, but I really don't like the moves they've made, and I don't like their head coach. I take head coaching into consideration very heavily when it comes to making these rankings. I just don't think Mike McCarthy makes his players better, and when you lose the talent pool like Cowboys have, I do believe CD's going to be really good. I think Dak's all right, but I think they're an injury away, like a major injury. I don't think they have as much depth as the other teams in their own conference. Texans are ugly. They're one of the worst teams in the conference. I think the Colts are a playoff lock with Matt Ryan. I mean, they're in an easy division. I think that's a lock. I think when I'm saying these playoff locks, I think they're guaranteed to make it. I don't think they guarantee to win the division. Now, in the sense of the Colts, I do think they win their division. They have so much talent on both sides of the ball, and then you add an adult at quarterback that isn't going to make a ton of mistakes. Matt Ryan fits that perfectly. The LA Rams are an easy Super Bowl contender, and we're going to move on with that because they won the Super Bowl last year, and they got Allen Robinson, and Bobby Wagner isn't the same guy that he was in Seattle, but he's still a veteran presence in a linebacker room that has a lot of talent in there. Chargers, Super Bowl contender. And with the Chargers, they have made some all-in type of moves this offseason. J.C. Jackson is a ball hawk. Khalil Mack is one of the best edge rushers, period, let alone rushing defense. He's fantastic as well. And that's been the biggest problem with the Chargers. I mean, they let Danny Woodhead drop, I think it was 134 yards with the Texans, or I forget the name of who dropped like 200 yards on the Chargers. It practically was everyone. And I would never watch Jerry Tillery gameplay ever again. They had to fix the running defense, and they're one good draft away from easily being the favorites in the entire NFL in a stacked division. I think The only thing that's going to stop the Chargers is potentially Brandon Staley, or if they get stuck in a position where the entire division eats themselves alive. The Vikings, I think, are potentially playoff locks, but I'll put them at wild card just because I'm not completely confident that they win the division against the Packers. But I think that they're a better team than the Packers right now as of today. I got the Raiders as probably a number mid as... I'm not going to finish that, but I have a mid just because I don't believe that they are as good of a team as people want them to be. I'm not sold as their head coach. I don't believe that they have as much depth as other teams. I don't like how their play design is going to be. I don't like how it's very Patriots-esque that I think McDaniels is going to try to have. And I think that their back end of their defense isn't that fantastic. I think they're the fourth best team in that division, even with the Chiefs trading away Tyreek Hill. And that's a hot take to some people, but I truly believe it. Bengals, I think they're the best wild card potential playoff lock team, but I wouldn't see them as a lock. I wouldn't bet money that they would make the playoffs. I think they can range from all the way going back to the Super Bowl to potentially being out of the playoffs. Just depends on what happens in that conference. They've done some really good things this offseason, but the truth of it is they're not guaranteed to make a playoff spot this year. Jaguars, I think they're ugly, borderline mid. I think they've made some really good moves. I would not be surprised if they were borderline mid, but I'm going to keep them in ugly because that roster, it's unproven. It's very unproven. I don't think the moves that they've made is as bad as people want them to be because you have to pay a lot of players to come to Jacksonville. That's the truth of it. The Commanders, I know it's not the logo. I'll say borderline wild card. No, I'm putting them in mid. I won't put them ahead of the Raiders, but I will put them over the Cowboys. I don't believe in Carson Wentz. That's the end of the day. I don't know what the hype is with Carson Wentz. He is washed at the end of the day, and it's the same situation with the Colts. A very talented team, but he's not a quarterback that consistently plays well enough to win games. And his highs are really good, but his lows will end up losing you games. Chiefs are a playoff lock. Let's move on with that. I would put them over the Colts, but I would not put them over the 49ers yet because they have to prove to me that they use those draft picks well enough to make enough weapons. But if you have the best quarterback in the league, I truly believe you can make the playoffs easily. I got the Saints at mid, close to ugly, but I would put them right in front of the Jets, not in front of the Cowboys. I don't like the moves they made this offseason. I don't like the head coaching change. I think they should have gotten a new regime in there. And I'm not a big fan of the Jameis Winston move, but they're in cap hell. It's a tough situation with New Orleans. I want them to be really good, but I don't really believe they'll be good enough to get into a wild card spot. I'll put the Raiders at the back of the wild card. I do think they can make it. I'm going to move that around. I don't think that they're as bad as I'm trying to make them to be. Buccaneers, you have Tom Brady. You're a Super Bowl contender. I don't know what else to tell you, man. They're a Super Bowl contender. Giants, you're ugly. You're real ugly. I would put y'all over the Bears and Texans, but I don't believe they'll be that good. I think this will be a hot take. I think they're a borderline wildcard team. I really, really like the Eagles. I would not put them over those couple teams, but I really think they're closer to a playoff lock than people say, and I think they're my pick to win the NFC East, honestly. I think they're the winners of the NFC East at the end of the day, and I think those 3 first-round picks are going to be crucial. Get George Karlaftis and Garrett Wilson, and you're set. And then you have a 3rd first-round pick to use to potentially trade back and get more assets. I got the Steelers right behind them. I think the Steelers have a really good defense, and defense wins championships, but Mitchell Trubisky's going to hold them back, and I don't think I'm putting them in mid. I'm going to say it. I don't believe in Mitchell Trubisky. I have the Broncos as playoff locks. I wouldn't put them as a Super Bowl contender just yet, but they're close. They are very close. I just need to see a little bit more on that defensive end. I believe that they could be right there with the Super Bowl contenders, and I'm overhyping the 49ers a little bit. Let me push them back a bit. There you go. That looks a little bit better in my opinion. Dolphins, you're the very back of the wild card. I think they have all the potential to have a big-time run in the NFC East, but they're going to have to click very early and very fast. They can't afford a slow start with Tua. Titans, you're right there in the in the wild card, but I would put them right there. I think they're getting older, but I love their head coach. I think Mike Vrabel is one of the best head coaches in all football, and I think they're just getting older and more injury-prone. I'd be concerned that Derrick Henry gets hurt again with a foot problem. He's getting older. That's what happens with running backs. They tend to fall off very quickly. Browns, I'm going to put them just in the middle of here solely because we do not know what Deshaun Watson's future is going to look like, so I don't want to put all my chickens into one basket with them. I'm putting them right in the middle because they could go from not being in the playoffs to all the way being Super Bowl contenders. I'm going to put this one here, and you guys can be as mad at me as you want. The Packers might not make the playoffs this year, or they can make another championship run. I don't like what they have in the wide receiver room, and I would probably drop them back to there. I don't really like what the Packers have done this offseason, and they haven't proven to me that they'll draft receivers well enough. And the way that Matt LaFleur's offense is run doesn't really fit not having a lot of receivers, especially an X receiver that can break off a cornerback. This is going to be Matt LaFleur's show-off year. As much as people want to put the focus on Aaron Rodgers, and he did take a lot of money, Matt LaFleur is going to have to showcase his offensive prowess as much as people want to give him credit for. Carolina, you're ugly at this point. It's not looking great for Carolina. They have a lot of talent, but man, it's not looking pretty. Cardinals, you're mid. I'm putting Cardinals number one mid. They have a lot of talent, but I don't believe that Kyle Murray's the quarterback in a year. I have the Bills as my Super Bowl favorite. I'm going to just say that. I have them as my Super Bowl favorite. Moving on. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. We're not talking about the Seahawks. I'll get sad. And we're putting this here because I want to be a jerk. And they do not have the wide receiver room to compete in the AFC. They do not have the weapons to compete in the AFC. In the NFC, they might have a chance, but I do not believe in Bill Belichick this year, and that's the truth of it. And you can get mad at me all you want, but I really don't believe that they will be able to be real contenders for a playoff spot. And I don't know if they win a game if they got into the playoffs barely. It's so tough to get into the AFC. They would have to catch a lot of breaks. If you're in the mid-tier and you feel that you can make the playoffs, they're going to need a lot of breaks from the teams above. And that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a sub or a like or anything you feel, a comment. I love responding to y'all's comments. This is my favorite part of the day. It's my favorite notification on my phone. And thank you so much for watching. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.